So we're going to go over a little bit more to do with core stability. So in previous sections we've talked about the background and theory behind it, and that's about the practical side of things, how we actually put it into place. We're going to talk about two of the main principles. First one being positioning. So we need to make sure that we can do what we call pelvic tilting, and that changes the position of our hips, which influences the shape of our lower back. After that, then we're going to work with how our abdominal wall should function, and we want our abdominal wall to brace. And the idea there is that's then going to use the abdominal muscles to hold that shape in place. And if you remember back to the previous sections, those are the two major components of core stability. So the bearded wonder, Milosh here, one of our coaches, is helping me out. So first of all, we're going to just give you a demonstration of pelvic tilting. So he's going to roll his hips forwards and make a big space between his lower back and the floor. You'll notice that he's pivoting the movement straight down here by his pelvis. You should then be able to roll his hips back towards him and flatten his lower back gently to the ground. And again, notice how the movement's isolated to his pelvis rolling. So being careful not to shove through his backside and legs too much. He's making sure as well that the rib cage isn't moving too much. You should be able to then roll backwards and forwards nice and smoothly from one end of the position to the other. It shouldn't be an on or off type of a movement where everything jumps in. It should be nice and smooth and easy as he goes. Okay? So being careful not to lift up and down from here. So sometimes when you're finding this really, really hard, this can sometimes lift up a little bit too high. So there he goes. So we've got to be careful to make sure the rib cage doesn't drive away. Okay? So we're keeping this normal. When we master this movement, we now need to set our best possible position. And we call that neutral. So we're going to roll backwards and forwards, flatten our lower back to the floor. There we go. We're going to roll out a little bit until we've got a space between lower back and floor that's big enough for the fingers. So remember, if you stop when you find that neutral space, you can check it out with your hand. So the whole hand, if it slips through, means that the space is too big. If you get your fingers between lower back and the floor, then that means that that's a little bit too small. So you need to come down a little bit flatter than that. A little bit flatter than that. A little bit flatter than that. There you go. And this is how the hand acts as a really, really cool guide for whether or not you've got the right space. The job now is to maintain that position. So we don't want that to change. So our abdominal wall has to then hold that. So Milosh now is going to take 2 fingers from each hand. He's going to find the pointy parts on the fronts of his hips. Okay, there you go. He's going to take a step in with those 2 fingers by a centimetre or 2 towards the centre. He's then going to bury his fingers down through his abdominal wall, like he's trying to find the floor. It should be uncomfortable. Okay? The idea is then that's now going to connect your brain to where it is that we want to work. His job now is to fake a cough. A bit more, there you go, it's more powerful than you'd expect. So that's then going to give you a feeling of how the abdominal wall works. It flattens and tightens. It doesn't pull in, it doesn't dome out, it flattens and holds. And that's all of the layers of the abdominal wall working together. The trick then is that without having to cough, it's going to try and squeeze, engage, and brace. You're going to go ahead and do that. Brilliant. I don't know if you noticed now in the video, you can see how the tension in the abdominal wall repels the fingers. This is a fantastic way of learning the coordination. So he's holding that now coordinated. He's breathing nice and steadily, although he's going to find the breathing is a little restricted. So the diaphragm's going to hold a little bit of tightness. Still got finger space between lower back and the floor. Yeah, my check is good. So we've got to be careful to make sure the abdominal wall, when it squeezes, it doesn't change that position. Okay, so relax out from there from the option. So a quick review of that one more time. So tilting, rolling backwards and forwards from the hips, nice and smooth, no legs backside, no movement for the rib cage. Find our neutral position, so just finger space between lower back and the floor. There we go. From there then, use your fingers to cue your middle, find the pointy bits on the point of the hips, come in, press down. The brain now knows where it's working from. And then going to squeeze and hold. You can cough if that helps. But then that tension there keeps the shape between lower back and the floor. First trick for you is to then try and get to the point where you can maintain the tension here for 10 breaths.